think? I mean, if you weren't aware of the situation and I came to you for advice, what would you say to me?
I'd say if you don't leave, I don't think I can carry on like this.
Just to let you know, Jake, that Scott is no longer barricaded in his room. In fact, I'm taking him and Abby out for a burger.
No, I don't think that's a very good idea. He might not be up to it yet.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't give a damn what you think.
Strong words, Tracy.
Yeah, well, I'm feeling particularly strong today.
Oh, yeah? What brought this on?
Oh, just something somebody told me. And wouldn't you like to know?
Don't play games with me, Tracy.
Thought you liked games, Jake. Mind games.
I don't have time for this.
Too busy sleeping with members of your staff, aren't you?
I wouldn't believe a word Bina says.
Did I say anything about Bina?
You're really enjoying this, aren't you?
I wouldn't say enjoying, Jake, but I am experiencing a certain amount of pleasure seeing you squirm.
Nah, you don't frighten me.
I don't need to. My solicitor will do that.
If she tells.
Oh, Jake, it's not a question of if. It's a question of when. And I think if I speak very nicely to Bina, she might tell your mother. Or then again, maybe I'll tell Kate. Just see what the solicitor advises, eh?
Tonight, following the big match live, there's only 4 contestants left on the island. Don't miss Survivor. You're on HTV at 9:50.
Stand by your phones. It's time to unlock the vaults.
Britain's newest TV jackpot has taken a rollover.
We're going to be playing for a jackpot of £200,000. Call us now for a chance to get your hands on that money.
Could you unlock the vault? Saturday, 6:30, ITV1.
Hello, after the break, the latest on the farm double murders.
We'll be reporting live from the scene on HTV News in just a minute.
Great food is now as close as your nearest Somerfield, so finding our chicken and roasted peppers with mozzarella from our exquisite So Good range has never been easier. Somerfield, good food made easy.
You've just got to have braces!
Boots brings you a fantastic selection of top health and beauty products for only 99p. Only 99p. Now available at most Boots stores.
Good evening, you're watching HTV, part of ITV1. It's 6 o'clock and time for the latest news from across Wales.
HTV News with Jonathan Hill and Lucy Cohen.
Good evening. Tonight's main stories.
Farm killings. 2 pensioners are found murdered. We're live at the scene.
Dancing with Death, the lethal new club drug that's legal.
Plus, with thousands of job losses, why do the unemployment figures keep falling?
And head over heels, we meet the new hero of Welsh soccer. Police have launched a major murder inquiry after 2 pensioners were battered to death at a farm near Llangollen.
The grim discovery was made at Tower Farm, just a short distance from the town's international pavilion. Tonight, detectives say the killer is on the loose. Ian Lang has our top story.
Seeking clues to the brutal murder of 2 defenceless pensioners. It was during the early hours of this morning that detectives were called to the farm here in the normally peaceful Vale of Llangollen. They found the body of an elderly man and immediately launched a major investigation. Then just after lunchtime, following a search of the farm buildings, they found the body of an elderly woman. Police have not named her, but she's believed to be 90-year-old widow Elsie Davis, who's lived at the farm for many years. This afternoon it emerged that both had been battered to death.
As we speak, in fact, the post-mortem examination is being conducted. There are what I would describe as substantial injuries. There are a number of items that could potentially be identified as a murder weapon, and there may be more than one.
The farm near the Llangollen Pavilion is used as a campsite. Police are trying to establish who visited the site in the last few days. They're also seeking 2 men known to have helped on the farm. Critically, they're anxious to trace a red Skoda which belonged to the elderly man. It's gone missing.
The hypothesis that I'm working on is that the person responsible for the deaths has in fact left the scene in that vehicle.
In just a few weeks' time, Llangollen will play host to its famous international folk festival. But tonight it's the focus of something very different indeed, a double murder investigation.
And we hope to bring you more on that story later in the programme. Lucy.
Police investigating the disappearance of Carmarthen lecturer Linda Rozelle have arrested a man on suspicion of murder. Swindon police say a 42-year-old local man is in custody. Linda, who was last seen on her way to work in March, has still not yet been found.
It's emerged a 4-year-old girl saw her father being killed by a supermarket car park barrier. Kenneth Farr died when the steel gate crashed into his car during a shopping trip to Cardiff yesterday. His daughter Jessica was in the back seat. Police believe the barrier was caught by a sudden gust of wind.
Ketamine is a drug used by vets on animals. It can be lethal to humans, though.
But that hasn't put off a growing number of people who are taking it in nightclubs and parties. And as Mark Overington reports, police are powerless to arrest users.
Ketamine is a powerful tranquilizer. It's used to knock out animals by vets. For a human to take it can be fatal. Incredibly, that's exactly what's happening on the dance party scene in Wales.
Ketamine's the big choice for people at the moment who are coming in to experience drugs.
Alan, we've disguised his identity, is a ketamine user from Cardiff.
As soon as you lift your head back to let everything slide down, you get like a bomb go off in your head. What's this new thing? This wonderful white powder, which it isn't at all.
Carol Handy works at Turning Point in the capital, dealing with people like him.
People do tend to have higher pain thresholds, so people could hurt themselves by walking into walls. I've known people who've played around with fire because they can't feel the burning sensation.
Well, certainly ketamine is getting more common as a drug of abuse, with people taking it really hoping to alter the state of their mind. Because it's an anaesthetic, if you take too much of the drug, you can go unconscious. It can depress your breathing, so if you don't breathe, obviously that can be fatal. And unfortunately, the lethal dose in some patients is as low or lower than just 1 gram of the substance.
But the police face problems dealing with the threat.
Whilst it's not illegal to possess, so they wouldn't be able to arrest them, they wouldn't be able to detain them. And let's not forget, this drug does have dangerous effects and it can cause grave harm.
So ketamine may be legal, but it's also lethal. And the fear is that as this previously little-known drug grows in popularity, that will start to show. Mark Overington, HTV News, Llandoch Poisons Unit.
He's now been missing since Monday. A 79-year-old man who was last seen walking on the Offers Dyke path near Hay-on-Wye.
Well, we can now join our reporter Rob Shelley live at Hay-on-Wye. Rob, what's the latest you can tell us?
Well, John, search parties are just starting the search again in an area adjacent to where they searched yesterday near Hay Bluff. The helicopter was out yesterday, the mountain search and rescue teams were out yesterday as well. Today they're looking at the floors of the valleys, basically.
Rob, there must be concern now because I understand this is totally out of character for Mr. Blake.
Absolutely, this is a very polite man we're talking about, Mr. Blake. actually phoned up a couple of hours into his journey to say he'd be late because of the weather, the situation he was facing walking along Offers Dyke. So it's really kind of unthinkable that he wouldn't have phoned to let the B&B here in Hay, where he should have arrived on Monday night, know that he wasn't going to be here. He's also a very experienced walker. He'd know to stick to the paths. Now, all of those paths have been searched. A 75-kilometre area has been searched, but so far, no sign.
Rob, what happens now? Do they keep on searching or do they call a halt?
It's what search parties call looking in circles of probability. You keep on covering areas and recovering them where they overlap. You go to the most probable areas where we're going to find Mr. Blake. But so far, there is no sign. It's 2 days now, and worries are growing.
Rob Shelley in Hay-on-Wye, thanks very much.
Every week on HTV News we report on big job losses in Wales. But the jobless figures keep going down. So what's going on? Heath Jeffries reports now on the health of the Welsh economy, including news that a Dutch company has come to the valleys to persuade people to try life in the Netherlands.
In Merthyr Tydfil, a town with 1,000 people out of work, a Dutch recruitment firm's offering a way out to young people keen to go abroad.
Just for a new opportunity and a bit of extra money, that's all.
Get out to Merthyr, no jobs on, yeah.
Unlike Wales, the Netherlands has full employment. Unlike Wales, there's a shortage of workers in labour-intensive industries. The country needs baggage handlers at Schiphol Airport and warehouse packers in the bulb industry. So the recruiters simply taking advantage of towns like Merthyr Tydfil, where there's a high level of unemployment and a big pool of cheap English-speaking labour. The company's targeting towns with high unemployment like Pembroke Dock, but denies it's exploiting people.
They get the same wages paid as everybody else. We provide totally free the travelling from England to Holland. We pay the accommodation, we pay the travelling in Holland, we pay the food. So I don't see how we exploit people.
The government's jobless figure is down 3,000 to 5.7%. But why is the figure so low when there have been so many mass redundancies?
We've really gone past the time when we saw very many big inward investments into Wales. So job creation is becoming more small scale, is becoming more indigenously sourced. So I think we do tend to see less of these high level, large projects coming in.
And most of us work in services now. It's easier to change jobs, even if it means going abroad. Heath Jeffries, HTV News, Merthyr Tydfil.
Plaid Cymru claims Wales is still missing out on millions of pounds from the Treasury to match fund European aid schemes. Senior party members today took their campaign for more money to Number 10. They handed in a letter demanding an extra £270 million a year from the public purse.
The jury in the Clydach murder case have visited the house where 4 members of one family were killed.
They also visited the home of builder David Morris, who denies 4 counts of murder. Our chief reporter Andy Collinson joined them on the journey.
It was a tour around locations the jury have already heard much about. First stop, the pub where defendant David Morris drank pints of strong lager on the night the killings took place. He was not a regular here. The jury, though, have been told he'd been critical of Mandy Power during the evening. Second stop, and some minutes walk away, the murder scene itself. 9 Kelvin Road has been substantially refurbished since the murders, but it's still the same basic shape that Mandy and her family would have known. So far, the jury only know this property through scenes of crime pictures and the most gruesome of video evidence showing the bodies of the 4 people who died in their home here. Now they're able to place the property in the context as it was before the 27th of June 1999. A normal house in a normal street in a normal Welsh community. The judge in the case, Mr. Justice Butterfield, and barristers for the prosecution and the defence waited as the jury spent more than 20 minutes at the scene. They also visited the defendant's former home, a ground-floor flat in a nearby village of Cry-Cefn Park. They passed by other sites which Mandy and her family would have known well in the community where they spent most of their lives. The tour ended at the former home of Alison Lewis, the young mother with whom Mandy Power had struck up what was called in court a close and loving relationship. Andy Collinson, HTV News, Clydach.
steeplejack Fred Dibner was on top of the world again today when he travelled to the summit of Snowdon. He was there to open the mountain railway service for the summer season. It was badly hit last year by foot and mouth restrictions, but now it's hoped that up to 140,000 visitors will use the railway in the coming months.
Now, they've just completed 6 months in Kosovo, so you'd think they'd be keen to hop on a plane and come on home.
But 5 soldiers from the Royal Regiment of Wales decided to do it the hard way. They've cycled the 1,600 miles from Pristina to Cardiff for charity. A hero's welcome outside City Hall in Cardiff after a month-long gruelling journey.
And we made it.
How does it feel?
Relief. Glad it's over. Glad we did it. Outstanding achievement for all the lads.
And there was relief too for the families welcoming the boys home.
I can't express what I did to feel then. Wonderful it was. I just want to go up to him and grab him, really.
They trained for a month in Pristina before they began their marathon journey, but some things you can never prepare for.
The first week we got chased by a pack of dogs, which nearly had us off our bike. Then we had the snow of the mountains of Switzerland. Then we got stoned by a load of gypsies. So, you know, it was quite exciting.
Their journey took them through Macedonia, Greece, Italy, Switzerland and France, and the going got tough.
The 5 days of rain and sleet in France, it broke everyone. We couldn't get to our daily destinations because it was just killing us. It was just like so cold and so wet.
But they were determined to make it, and today they weren't even saddle sore. It is a huge achievement. Is it something that you'll always remember?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Something to tell my grandkids about.
Well, cycling is obviously thirsty work, but these celebrations are well deserved. The boys have raised over £20,000 for the Noah's Ark appeal and for Hope and Homes for Children, supporting children in the Balkans. But will they ever go back?
Hope not. If I do, there's no way I'm cycling home again.
You can't blame him, can you?
Well done to the boys. Well, still to come in the programme tonight.
A new spectator sport, outdoor art.
And honouring the greats, the last Welsh Prime Minister takes his place in the Hall of Fame.
Price reverse at B&Q. We're bringing down even more prices.
10 years ago, you'd pay $13.99 for 5 litres chrome white emulsion. Today, it's only $6.98.
And 10 years ago, you'd pay $20.98 for 10 litres of B&Q Value Magnolia. Today, it's only $8.98.
More prices we've lowered. That's price reverse at B&Q.
Wouldn't it be great to have 4 chances at life? I mean, I'd always dreamt of being a great blues man in Mississippi.
You sure that boy's mine?
Or maybe win the Tour de France. Or I'd love to have built something like this. Still, just think, this Saturday you've got 4 chances to change your life completely. For one night only, mind. Don't live a little, live a lotto.
Price reverse at B&Q continues.
10 years ago, this Atlantic bench was $34.99. Now it's only $29.96.
That's more prices we've lowered.
Cardigan Bay is renowned for this. But it's time for a change. There are plans to turn the old Aberporth airfield into a technology park and airport that would bring jobs and prosperity. But do these ambitious plans have any real future? Wales This Week, 7:30 Thursday on ITV1.
Hello, welcome back. Now, if you go down to the woods next month, you're sure of a big surprise.
Yes, artists are transforming the landscape of the Vale of Glamorgan. They're using the countryside as inspiration, as a canvas and as a gallery. Howell George has been to the Coed Hills Rural Art Space in St Hilary to find out more.
Old railway carriages on farmland at St Hilary. But everything here has a hidden purpose. These discarded relics of an industrial past now house artists working at Coed Hills Farm and Rural Art Space. Their occupants are the new custodians of the countryside.
We here are seeming to go from strength to strength, you know, and really enjoying living on the land and being a part of the landscape and making it work for us, making it pay bills and making it feasible to be living on a farm.
The Coyd Hills project was set up several years ago by a group of newly graduated art students. Members of the public are quite welcome to come and enjoy a perfectly reasonable walk through the woods here at Coyd Hills, but all is not always as it seems. The hornets' nests are made of money, the trees wear necklaces, the birdies in the woods take on a different meaning, and there's a danger of being hamjacked by coke-drinking pigs at the wishing well. And all that's before this year's exhibition. Preparations are well underway for the Ancient Futures show, which will follow a residency of 14 international artists who live and work in nomadic, low-impact tents called yurts.
Yurts are made from coppiced wood, which normally doesn't really have a use, and woodlands need thinning, and this wood just ends up being burnt or whatever. So you use saplings and strip them down. They make the poles and the trellis. The reason for this as well is that they are mobile.
We have to look at art as the environment, we have to look at the environment as culture, we have to look at culture as community. Yeah, looking at the landscape and the use of the rural farmland is in a different way, really.
Exactly what will be on show on the last weekend of June is beyond my imagining, but one of the highlights is sure to be the limestone whale, which will stretch across a large area of the Vale countryside. Howell George, HTV News in St Hilary.
Let's take a look at the day's sport now. And will Ernie be off to the Premiership after last night's dream debut for Wales?
Yes, an historic victory over Germany at the Millennium Stadium. With all the details, here's Zoe Tate. Zoe.
Yeah, thanks, John. Well, 2 years of steady progression under Mark Hughes. You could say it was building up to a result just like last night. A resounding victory over Germany for only the second time in Welsh history. And the star of the night, of course, Robert Earnshaw.
Earnshaw has long promised and delivered much at the front of Cardiff City's attack. Last night he proved himself capable of even more. Setting up the only real chance of an otherwise tame first half, he was already central to Wales's domination of Germany, and it took him just 15 seconds of the second half to beat two defenders and seal his place in the history books.
Unbelievable! It was Ernie's night, and you know, it was his full debut, and to score against Germany on his debut was just fantastic. But the boys knew how much of a good player he was, but he really showed everybody last night he can do it at the highest level, and it was a great finish. And I thought all night he was excellent all through the evening, you know.
The second was disallowed for offside, but already bets are being taken on a meteoric rise to the Premiership for the 21-year-old. It was an emotional match for Chris Coleman too, though, back after the car crash that threatened to end his career 2 years ago. But the night belonged to Earnshaw and to a Welsh side truly showing the potential to succeed in the European Cup qualifiers later in the year.
They're a great group of players to work with. They're desperate for success, as we all are who are connected with the Welsh national side. We're going in the right direction. There's still a lot of work to be done, but we're very positive.
And if that wasn't enough, Wales climbed a place in the world rankings too. They now stand at 96th. There's no rest for the wicked though, and today Earnshaw was back at Ninian Park, where he insists, despite the rumours, he will stay. Sam Lloyd caught up with him to see if the events of the last 24 hours have sunk in.
I don't know, I was just, I saw Hearts flicker on, and next thing I knew it was in the net, so it was just unbelievable. Something you just can't even dream of, so it's just really brilliant.
And what a brilliant performance. You must be absolutely delighted.
Yeah, I just went out there, you know, have no fear and just try and do my best and, you know, see what happens. And, you know, that's what happened. So it was really a dream come true for me.
And finally, rumours arrived that you might sign for a Premiership club. But what are the main priorities? Cardiff and keeping that place in the national team?
Yeah, definitely. First things first. With Cardiff, and I'll be signing a new contract next week. But you know, it's really Cardiff, and you know, trying to go up next season, working our way up, and hopefully, you know, Mark Hughes picks me again, and you know, see what I can do then as well. So, can't wait, and my phone's ringing.
See, he's a busy man. It was probably Liverpool or Manchester United trying to get him out of that new Cardiff contract. On to rugby now, though. Pontypridd and Llanelli announced their sides for this weekend's Principality Cup final today. No huge surprises, but Ponty did take the opportunity to unveil their latest acquisition, Geraint Lewis. The number 8 signed a 4-year deal to return to Sardis Road after 2 years with Swansea.
Basically, you know, it's my hometown club, and you know, I feel now's the time to return there. I've always wanted to return there sometime in my career, and I thoroughly enjoyed my 2 years in Swansea, but I thought now, if I am going to do it, it's the best time to go back to Ponty.
Finally on to cricket, a county championship personal best for Darren Thomas against Derbyshire today. He took 7 wickets for just 33 runs to leave the visitors all out for 162. Glamorgan are currently on 91 for 3. And that's all the sport for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow.
Thanks, Zoe. The Prime Minister, Tony Blair, has just unveiled a bronze bust of a Welsh predecessor. Lord Callaghan of Cardiff will now take his place among the giants of British political life in the members' lobby at the House of Commons.
But let's take a look at the headlines tonight. We're joined by Glyn Rosser.
Police say they're powerless to arrest users of a new drug which is becoming increasingly popular on the dance scene.
Despite recent job losses in Wales, the unemployment total is still dropping according to the latest figures.
And tonight's top story, North Wales police have launched a murder hunt after 2 pensioners were found and battered to death at a farm near Llangollen.
And we can now go live to Llangollen to join our reporter Ian Lang. Ian, what's the latest you can tell us at the scene?
Well, as you can see, the farm is just behind me here. Now, it appears she was a widow. She'd lived on the farm for many years, and despite the age, she was running it, albeit with some help. Now, neighbours say she was a nice lady who kept herself to herself. Now, we don't know much about the man. He was in his late 80s, possibly a helper who was staying with her.
Now, what can you tell us about this missing car, this red Skoda? It seems crucial.
Now, yeah, indeed, this is very critical. Now, it was a red Skoda. Now, the registration number is S516XCA. Now, I'll repeat that, S516XCA. Now, police have stressed the driver could be dangerous, so on no account approach the driver, but report it to the police on 01492 517 171.
Ian, this is a quiet little area. What's been the reaction there today?
Well, the problem is, of course, that it's usually a place where people come for their holidays or whatever, and of course in a few weeks' time it's going to be the site of the Llangollen International Eisteddfod. So we've been talking to people in the area. They are absolutely distraught. They're absolutely shocked by what's gone on. These are 2 elderly, defenceless pensioners who've been killed, and as yet we've actually no idea about why this brutal killing has actually happened.
Ian Lang in Llangollen, thank you very much.
And of course we'll bring you any updates on that story in our late bulletin. That's at 11:20 tonight with Sarah Hibbard.
And HTV News will be back at the usual time, 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Until then, from all of us on the programme, good night.
Good night.
HTV Weather. Sponsored by Oakwood.
Hi there. Well, what a fantastic day. We've had plenty of sunshine, lovely warm temperatures and just a touch of low-lying mist, but nothing really too horrendous. If we take a look at our pressure movie, you can see we have this area of high pressure to thank. It's placed itself rather nicely over Central Europe and the southern half of the UK, and it's keeping everything nice and settled and summery. There are a few fronts lurking out there in the Atlantic, but they're not really going to give us any bother until the weekend, when there may be the odd thundery shower. But let's not worry about that quite yet. As we head into tonight, then, if we take a little fly around the coastline, you can see it's going to stay fine and dry. Coastal areas again becoming rather murky and perhaps a few patches of mist forming in the early hours. But look how mild it's going to be, a low there of 10 degrees. That's better than some daytime temperatures we've seen recently. Waking up to Thursday, again you can see some patches of mist clearing inland but hanging on in there a little more around the coasts. But the good news is the sun is back. Lots of yellow blobs on the map, getting brighter and brighter then as we move into the afternoon, and getting hotter and hotter too. Highs there of 24 degrees Celsius, that's a whopping 75 in Fahrenheit. Further east and around the border, even warmer still. Definitely the best figures we've had so far this year. So if you are out and about, remember the sunscreen, because you will catch without even realising it. The outlook for Friday, again fantastic temperatures, although it will become more humid, but make the most of it bit because those thundery showers I mentioned are on their way towards us for the weekend, which is fairly typical. In the meantime, a quick recap on tonight. Dry with patches of mist. Tomorrow again is going to be hot and sunny. Bye-bye.
HTV weather. Come rain or shine, Oakwood's fine.
I feel like a prisoner in my own home. Look, they're still out there.
The pollen count, sponsored by Benadryl, 1 a day.
Well, that warm, sunny weather we've seen today has pushed the pollen levels up to moderate, remaining that way tomorrow and as we head into the weekend. Grass pollen really causing the bulk of the problems. Hay fever sufferers living in rural areas will be worst affected, with pollen levels slightly lower than around the coasts.
Crimestoppers, sponsored by Sweb Electricity and Gas.
Detectives in Cardiff want to speak to this man in the dark jacket about an indecent assault on a 16-year-old girl. The girl was threatened and molested at a bus stop in the Llanellishan area. Do you recognise him? A man in the unbuttoned black shirt was attacked and robbed by the 2 other men in this video in Great Western Lane in Cardiff city centre. They stole £70 and left their victim with face and head injuries. And have you seen this man? Stuart Cummings, a convicted burglar, is on the run from Pontypool Young Offenders Institution. He may be living in Cardiff. If you have information about any crime, call Crimestoppers, free and anonymously. That means you won't be asked your name, ever, but we'll explain how you can still claim a Crimestoppers Wales cash reward.
Crimestoppers, sponsored by Sweb Electricity and Gas.
You know, I find it offensive being questioned about my whereabouts when one of my colleagues has been killed. But you're all right though, aren't you? Because you were at that council meeting. Must be a dozen expert witnesses, eh?
They're all locked up for very good reason.
You say anything about that fight and there'll be another dead Purvis on this wing.
Friends or Traitors, The Bill and Bad Girls, Thursday from 8.
Coming next, today's latest national and worldwide news with Dermot Murnahan and Mary Nightingale.
Gardening, building or DIY. Pop into Leekes and discover. Plain and simple, value for money.
Boots brings you a fantastic selection of top health and beauty products for only 99p. Only 99p. Now available at most Boots stores.
Thanks for missing the football for me.
It's a pleasure.
Now they're on their own.
Community has become vital.
4 survivors.
This is really silly. I can't do this.
£1 million. It's every survivor for themselves. Survivor, 9:50 tonight, ITV1.
The boy has exceptional skills.
I'm in charge of security here, milady.
You must join me, Obi-Wan, and together we will destroy the Sith.
The Star Wars interviews, GMTV tomorrow.
Good evening, you're watching HTV, ITV1 in Wales. It's 6:30.
Good evening, welcome to the ITV Evening News. Tonight's headlines. The Home Secretary makes surprise apology to police over reforms.
Leading loyalist paramilitary released in Northern Ireland.
Asylum seekers keep on coming in spite of tougher security.
And tennis star Kornikova sues for millions over mistaken identity.
The Home Secretary, David Blunkett, surprised police officers today when he admitted that he had made mistakes in his drive to reform the service. In a conciliatory speech to hundreds of officers at the Police Federation conference in Bournemouth, he said he'd been wrong to try to cut their overtime rates.
But Mr Blunkett insisted that he hadn't got it all wrong and said he would press ahead with reform, but that he wanted to work with the police and not against them. Many officers welcomed what he said, but earlier in the day, the head of the Police Federation made a fierce attack on the Home Secretary. Our Home Affairs editor, Shuli Ghosh, reports.
Arriving at the Police Federation's annual conference in Bournemouth today, the Home Secretary said he felt like he was walking the plank, and he wasn't far wrong. In a blistering attack on Mr Blunkett, the Federation chairman accused him of causing anger and resentment among the ranks by briefing against the police and portraying them as malingerers who abuse the overtime system.
You and your ministers have assured us several times, just yesterday, about these so-called briefings and leaks. And some may believe you when you insist, as you have done on several occasions, that you personally had nothing to do with these stories. Or some may believe you, but thousands don't.
But Mr Blunkett rose to the challenge, and he promptly did what few politicians ever do. He apologised.
To acknowledge that I've made mistakes, not in pressing forward with reform, with the legislation or with the negotiations for change, but yes,